All right, I'd like to call this Cleveland Heights City Council meeting to order. It is Monday, August 4th, and it is not 7:30. It's 8:15. My apologies. We just had a long committee of the whole meeting. Addie, would you call the roll, please?
Cobb.
Here.
Kuda.
Here.
Larson.
Here.
Maddox.
Here.
Bosch.
Here.
Petrus.
Here.
Russell. Here.
All right, no absent members. Any amendments to the agenda? Hearing none. We didn't have any minutes to approve. So the first speaker is from the Cleveland Heights Historical Society, and that would be, is it Ken Goldberg? Okay, Mr. Goldberg, you have 10 minutes.
Good evening. I'm here to represent the Cleveland Heights Historical Society. We have a few of our trustees here. I've resided in Cleveland Heights 48 years. I'm on the Landmark Commission and was many years on the Improvement Board Committee and was on the Citizens Advisory Committee. Last month, our Cleveland Heights Historical Society was invited by Eric Elmy, Chief Building Official with the city, to meet with him at City Hall and discuss how to handle building records our organization might be interested in seeing and possibly acquiring before they are scheduled for disposal through the state's records retention policy. Most of our board did meet with Mr. Elmy and were shown the many boxes and other documents related to Heights construction projects over the decades. We all agreed it would be sensible for our board members to get an idea what is in the boxes offered to us and determine what materials might be of sufficient historic value to retain. As a local history researcher, writer, architectural tour guide, and preservation consultant, I well appreciate how there could be information in these basement materials that might well enhance what the Historical Society, the city, and I might offer the public in responding to their inquiries. As president of the Historical Society, I handle information requests and our Facebook page and have a significant understanding of what typical information is sought from us. If you recall, our organization won last year the Ohio Historic Preservation Office's Public Education and Awareness Award for our first 50 journals. There might well be information in the City Hall basement, such as certain building permits, photos, and blueprints and maps that fill in gaps no other resource can offer, even our marvelous local history room set up at the Heights Lee Road Library. We shall need a place to go through at least some of the boxes to get a feel of what is there. And Mr. Elmy had mentioned the possibility of using the now little used Superior Schoolhouse, which is city property. It was suggested we approach City Council to make this request, and we're told presenting this request at this meeting could begin the process. We know most local historical societies in the region have some use of space somewhere, frequently municipally owned property, and we would greatly appreciate the schoolhouse, which many of us were privileged in getting inside for the Landmark Commission's anniversary party, would be one of the most appropriate locations for us to pursue this project. Some of us also recalled when there were regular history talks at the school historic landmark. Indeed, there are still many around who assume the Historical Society is the schoolhouse. Our trustees and perhaps some carefully screened others who volunteer to help us peruse these records using a system in logging in these records. One being considered was used for organizing Cleveland Fire Department records, would certainly be helping the building department, as the boxes we were shown are not even properly labeled on their exterior, and we have no reason to believe the materials inside have been appropriately organized in workable fashion. With our helping the department, we would greatly appreciate if the city staff in return would help in our efforts, such as perhaps in getting the materials to wherever they can be dealt with, as we know we cannot deal with them alone in your secure basement. Our board has been discussing various options in pursuing this project, but this request is something we feel should be made now. Once the location where this project may be pursued is established, other decisions will fall in line. I welcome comments or questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to ask Addie a quick question. Does this intersect with the project that you're doing? at
Yes,
all?
it likely will. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I thought so. Any questions? It sounds like a great idea. I don't know who we would ask right now about the availability of the schoolhouse. Have you?
We didn't go any farther than that. Mr. Elmy, I don't know if it's one of our trustees suggested it, and he said, yeah, that might be, or if he suggested it, but somebody suggested it, and we know that it's got heat going again, I think, and, it's somewhat cleaned out and everything, because we had that party there, so I think it's, it looks reasonable, certainly a lot of space in there.
Well, then why don't we just send an email to Assistant Director Elmy, and see if we can, start the ball rolling. Because it sounds like a great idea, great project. I'm sure you're going to find some very interesting things. And
I hope so.
Yeah. And thank you so much for coming.
Sure. Thank you.
Sure. Next, we have impact presentation on severance. Ryan Porter is here, making his way to the podium. For those of you who, most of you might know, there's a possibility that we could get a contract to renovate Severance, and Ryan Porter has been in a 20-month agreement with the owner to come up with a plan for this property, and let's hear the update.
All right.
And you have somebody with you.
Yes. Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Mayor, the rest of the council. Thank you, everybody, although I'm pretty sure nobody's here for me. Thank you for listening to me anyways.
We're all interested in Severance.
James is here as well. He's a partner of mine who works on our planning side. So I'm just going to give you a quick update. We'll try to keep it brief. So as most of you know, and as Council President mentioned, we were able to form a joint venture with Namdar, the property owner, about 20 months ago. Actually, the 20-month clock started in June of last year. So we're about 13 months into that, somewhere around there. And we've been working on this process with the community for that 13-month period, the council, planning department. Just to kind of give you kind of an update on a timeline, we started off with our recommended action plan, which I know we presented to all of you in January of this year, which was the first step of our process. We are targeting completion, or just completed our initial concept plans for the site. We're looking to get our zoning and all the tax abatement structures and everything, the NCA, which is going to govern the site, in place hopefully by the end of this year. And then we're targeting breaking ground on the first buildings in the winter of 26. So a lot to still get done before the end of the year, but we're pushing hard and we're excited about what we've done. We've had a bunch of bigger and smaller community meetings. So we've had a couple meetings. This is an example of a meeting with Future Heights, a recap that occurred. We've had meetings at, the Noble Library, the Heights Library, the school. I don't know if some of you maybe have come. I'm sorry if you haven't yet, but we're going to be around for a very long time, so don't worry. There's plenty of time to meet. One of the things that we've also been meeting with the city about, since I've kind of partnered for redeveloping the site, well, we still have the issues that go on the site today until new buildings are built. So bi-weekly, I meet with city staff and the Namdar staff to try to fix some of the violations that are occurring on site. So while it may not be fast and it may look slow and it may not look great, we are working hard on still fixing things up in the meantime. So I just want people to know that we're not ignoring that. So the plan up on the screen is our concept plan. And basically we're looking over time to turn Severance's failed mall into kind of a quasi downtown area, right? So a walkable mixed use area. Would have apartments, condos, townhomes, retail, medical, hotel, which is one thing that's really come up a bunch in community members, the need for a hotel around here. It would be developed over time, and we would put in place a form-based optional overlay zoning code, which James will talk about for a couple minutes. The first phase is like really hard to explain in a real quick period of time, so bear with me. The first phase of development will occur basically on the northeast quadrant of the property, so where the old Walmart is and where the movie theater was. So that whole quadrant of the property will be the first areas to get developed, and then we would work our way around the site. But the kind of phase 1A is just that corner over kind of where the entrances from Mayfield Road, where that wooded area is along Mayfield Road. And that would be several mixed-use buildings, so with kind of apartments and retail space on the ground floor. The corner building H is envisioned for a hotel right now because it wants visibility, obviously, on Mayfield. So this will be done in a lot of phases. Phase 2 would be bringing ourselves back up to kind of the northwestern quadrant of the property, connecting kind of City Hall through a new Main Street, which would kind of run down, you can't see my clicker, which would run down this new spine of Severance Town Center. And then the last phase, phase 3, would be completing kind of the southeast quadrant over near Metro Hospital and where all that stuff exists. Now, everything's not going to be built in this exact order, but this is a conceptual plan because we have to work on a plan so that we can set up where the future streets are, how the blocks are going to be developed over time, and how the zoning is going to work. So you'll see kind of this block diagram on the left-hand side here shows how the blocks will be broken up for this development. But again, the zoning will encompass everything kind of on the boundaries of the roads and then to kind of the backs of the properties so that the property owners that are on the outside of the circle can also participate if they want to, right? Let's just say, there was a need for Milliken School to change over time or whatever, right? That could be in the zoning boundary. It probably won't, but it has the opportunity to do so. So the zoning is optional and you don't have to opt into it. You can if you want to, is the way it works. The diagram on the right shows kind of retail frontages. So we'll have requirements of where retail has to be on all these ground floors so that, all the developers and investors that come in to work with us know where the rules are. Kind of just area concept plan. Our housing study calls for like the absorption of around 100 units to a year that could be absorbed. We were looking at that over kind of like a 20-year build out, right, of this entire site. So first buildings will start hopefully by the end of the next year, but it will take a long time to build out this entire site, right? But you'll see real change over the first 3 to 5 years, right, of that whole quadrant. It's hard for people to understand the scale, but like just the northeast quadrant of this site is like the size of Van Aken, right? So just to kind of show you, right, like scale wise. But we're looking at, somewhere between 150 and 250,000 feet of retail space, somewhere between 50 and 100,000 feet of medical and other office space, about 150 to 250 keys of hotels that will be allowable on the whole overall zoning, and then some light industrial space that could be accompanied on the site for workers. Green space is a big piece of our plan, obviously planning for all the green and open space that would occur throughout the development. It'll be required for each building that gets built to provide some green space as part of the rules. Obviously, we're looking at infrastructure, bike infrastructure. We're working with RTA and all the different transit authorities on how the buses are going to run over long term and how we can increase service, improve service to the site. Our crowdsourcing exercise, which is how we engage the community, is very active. So I encourage you, if you're a member of the community, to go to severanceclevelandheights.com. Please check it out. It's where people can post ideas for uses that they want to see on the site over the time. And then they actually get other community members to like those uses. And the ideas that get the most support, right, are the uses that we do feasibility analysis to see if those businesses are actually feasible and talk about how we can implement them over time, right? So please join severanceclevelandheights.com and get involved that way. I'm going to let James talk for like 3 minutes about zoning, and then we'll, how are we doing?
So,
3 minutes.
All right, perfect.
so President, council members, thank you for the time. It's James Veo here on behalf of MBAC Collective. I'm talking about form-based zoning. And what's important about this is creating vibrant civic environments. And so with a form-based zone, you're really focused on looking at the physical form of a building as it fronts on a street. So that if you're standing on a sidewalk and you're looking around, you're seeing all the things that a form-based code controls, which is the sidewalk and the building itself. And so these things also allow for a mix of use, which is a big benefit. And if you look at places that are in high desirability, they really do have a variety of things to do in them. And we want to recreate that environment here. So how do we do that with a form-based zone? Well, what we do is we start with a street. And for every street type, there's an edge of the street where the street ends, and that's the face of the curb or a curb line. And we use that as a controlling factor in our zoning documents. And from there, we set dimensions for public frontage, like what needs to be in that public frontage and where does it end? And when does the private property begin? Or in this case, in the form-based zone, we call this a build-to line. And then within that, you can have a variety of different frontages for buildings. We define all these things in the zoning. We'll look a little deeper here at this public frontage where there's an A, B, and C. And what you have are three components that make up every very important component. They make up the elements of the public environment that people walk through when they get out of their car. And these are the things we really want to pay deep attention to. And so the first one is a furnishing zone. This is where your signs and your lights and your trees live on the sidewalk. And then next you have a pedestrian clearway. This is the obvious, it's the sidewalk that you walk on. But what we want to do is define in the zoning, this is a very important space. You don't put obstructions in the sidewalk. And so we need to define that space. And then finally, we have a transition zone. This is the kind of place where it's an intermediary between the public and private life. So, you know, a residential environment, there might be some vegetation on the edge of the sidewalk. In a more commercial environment, you might have a signboard, an A board. We take all these elements of civic life and we incorporate them into the zoning. Another way to think about it, if you're looking at it overhead on a two-dimensional plan of a site, we define in the same way here, the face of the curb, the build-to line, and then a zone of private frontage where your building typology, the wall of the building can come up. And that essentially makes it up. The civic elements. And then we take all these things and we develop them into a pattern of blocks. And so each block gets labeled and each block gets architectural elements that are defined. And this becomes a controlling component of the zoning. One important takeaway from this, you know, we're showing some street names on here. I just took a pass at this. I think one of the things we talked about, Ryan and Eric, is that, hey, this would actually be a really great crowdsourcing exercise for people to participate in the naming of the streets and in helping identify. You know, I did my best to try to identify things that related with Cleveland Heights, but you guys know this place way better than I do. So, you know, we can look forward to maybe having a naming exercise with some form. One of the important things about this map that's not labeled here is the street types. And so as you come in off of Taylor Road or Mayfield, you're on a certain hierarchy of streets. And as you drive in, you get into more and more localized streets. And so all that stuff, while it's not all defined in this graphic, is defined in the zoning and become controlling elements for what type of frontages can exist and what type of civic life happens on those streets. So we'll take a second here and just look at two examples of this. One we have here, this is like a street typology for the perimeter roads, so Severance Circle. You know, currently it's a 3-lane wide road all the way around the perimeter, but one of the things we were thinking is maybe really this road wants to have some form of a center median with vegetation so that we can have a more robust tree canopy and help produce a better environment for people to be in, you know, really make it more habitable. Another one that I take a lot of pride in is this idea of a retail street in phase 2, where you're creating basically your downtown, and stealing a project right out of Lancaster, California. It's called the Lancaster Boulevard, and what they did is they took an old 5-lane. I call it a strode. It's neither a street nor a road, but they took a 5-lane road and they turned it into this 2-lane on-street parking with a center treed, angled parking treed median. And it sounds like a lot's going on because a lot is going on. But what's remarkable about this space is the civic life that happens during special events. So this photo on the top here, that's a Halloween event or a farmer's market or something. You can just see it's just bustling with life. And this was a dead space. What happened in Lancaster when they converted this road is they saw $240 million of additional spending come into their downtown. So it was a huge economic boom for the community. So I don't know, Ryan, do you want to cover next steps?
Real quick.
We have to wrap it up, sorry.
We have to finish redefining the development districts. We're going to work on the regulating plan. We're going to come up with all the max densities, which I kind of talked about those a little bit earlier. And then, basically start doing on the code text, which we've already been working on. So we'll be presenting the code text and all the regulating plans. One of the other things that we're going to be working on is the new Communities Authority Act. So we're going to be setting that up for this site. So there'll be like a board that governs this site long-term, member of the city, members of our team, members of the community that are involved in identifying and putting together the rules of the road beyond the zoning that help govern this site. And with that, I think number 3 is the next step, which is trying to get the zoning in place.
Appreciate that.
Terrible.
No. Thank you for that. No, you're not, you're all right. I certainly want to, if anybody wants to have questions, yes. Councilwoman.
Timeline for the zoning changes. Looks like it's after you got all the planning done, but what are you looking at for starting the zoning
So the
change?
planning that was done was just conceptual,
Right.
right? Doesn't mean that's going to get built. But
Right.
that is needed to form where the streets and the blocks are going to go. And then the zoning comes from the streets and the blocks, right? How it's all set up. So the planning concepts are done. And now we're working on the zoning code, right? Which will regulate the site. And that will be hopefully complete and hopefully adopted by the end of this year is our target. That was our original target, yeah.
Thank you.
Councilman Posh?
Are you still optimistic about the
I'm
project?
always optimistic, Josh. I have to be. That's the only way I survive.
Thank you. And thanks for all the updates. I think it's good for us in the community.
Yeah, we really appreciate that. Any other questions, comments? So where's the bowling alley going to go?
Well, the bowling alley needs to get posted on the website, and needs a lot of support for it.
I'm just kidding.
For people, yeah. No, but I think a bowling alley is great. We were just talking, there was a gentleman with you, yes. We were talking about the bowling alley that used to be at Severance, yes.
Yeah.
And a pool table, yes.
It was-
I like it.
I see some heads.
Have it.
No, come on.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
We really appreciate that.
All right, cool.
Presentation.
Thanks, everybody.
Yes. All right, we're going to move on to communications from the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Not much to say today, but I do want to express just a couple important things, some that we've discussed previously, but I did want to at least call some public attention to it. The first is that we have been in discussion related to the Park Synagogue project. It is a fascinating project. It's been in the news and, for a while now, we've been working on this. The discussion that we've been having with the developers, SCA, has sort of centered around this $2 million figure that we've been looking at. The initial ask, I believe, was a $2 million grant or forgivable loan. We have worked with them, and sort of where we are in the discussion right now is sort of a $1 million grant that would be primarily focused on ensuring public access to some of the natural space on that site, ensuring that the people of Cleveland Heights have access to that as it's built out with trails and amenities. And then the other $1 million is a loan that would be sort of a subordinated loan behind some of the other lenders on the project, paid back over a long period of time with a relatively low interest rate. That's sort of where the discussion is right now. I just wanted to make the community aware of sort of that ongoing discussion. Nothing is finalized yet, but I do anticipate putting something before council this month for your consideration, and then moving forward from there. The second thing has to do with our continuing efforts to rebuild our neighborhoods. Way back when, I participated in some work that made funds available from the county to demolish a bunch of properties. We did that all over the county. Cleveland Heights was no exception. But what that means, and of course the foreclosure crisis that we have not fully recovered from yet, what all of that means is that we do have opportunity here to rebuild in Cleveland Heights. The median age of our housing in this city is ridiculously old. And that means a couple things. It means that people who are looking for modern amenities have a hard time finding what they need here in this city. People who don't want the hassle of a 115-year-old home, might have some difficulty finding something that they need in this city. And the constant churn of rebuilding and demolishing and sort of redeveloping a community as we go on. Cleveland Heights has not been very good at that over the years. And so what we're trying to do now is be a little bit more intentional, a little bit more aggressive in our rebuilding of our neighborhoods, our single-family parcels, and so on. And so one of the things that we're going to be moving forward with is, of course, putting something before council, a couple different items. One is going to be a relatively large-scale agreement with Rebuild Cleveland and Seth Task related to redeveloping probably about, say, close to 50 parcels in the city. And then another agreement with YRM, who has done some really fantastic work in surrounding cities, and most notably Shaker recently. I encourage everybody to go take a look at what they've been able to do in Shaker, with, of course, the government of Shaker Heights as a partner. And that would be sort of an additional, probably around 20 parcels. I'm hoping to get those 70 parcels redeveloped as quickly as possible while we go back out with our RFEI and see if we can garner some more interest in the remaining parcels that we have available for redevelopment. So I just wanted to give an update on that and sort of those two things and where they're going right now informally. And then the second thing, or the second piece of this that I wanted to talk about is something that's on your agenda tonight. And that is the Laborers Local 860 contract. Now, we went through a lot of discussion with 860. You know, obviously, any of these negotiations, you know, when they take place, you're going back and forth. You're having, you know, sometimes it can feel oppositional, but I do want to say that the process that we went through with 860, you know, again, because this is the second time in this term that we're doing this, I think it was pretty good. I think the process was relatively good. It took a little longer than I had hoped, but we're sort of at the finish line now, and something is before this council right now, and I am hoping that you vote to approve it. I think it's a good contract. I think that it right sizes a lot of things. And when you take a look at surrounding cities and wages in those other cities, we are making some moves that make a lot of sense in terms of compensation for people doing hard jobs in our city. And I know that this isn't meant to be sort of a reward for, you know, being nice to us in the last negotiation process, but frankly, 860 was. They were pretty nice to us in 2022. And in this case, I feel that not only do we need to make sure that we are rewarding them with fair wages for hard work, but also, I think from an organizational standpoint, proceeding with this contract will also put us in a really good place when it comes to being able to recruit in the future, retain quality employees who are, you know, doing good work for the city. We've known that we've needed a leg up when it comes to recruiting for a while. Over the last, I don't know, decade, 15 years, maybe even 20 almost, wages have stagnated and certainly haven't kept up with the cost of living in our area, in the country, generally. And this is a way that we can correct some of the sacrifices that some of these workers have made for the benefit of the city over the years. So again, I think that this will benefit the city as an organization, and I think that this is a set of fair wages for the workers as well. And so I'm hoping that you can pass this evening. I know it's on for first reading with consideration for adoption. I don't know what council is going to do this evening, but that is a request from me. And with that, I yield back. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mayor. We're going to move on to departmental reports. Director Gonzalez. I hope, oh, there he is. Okay. I just want you to know I asked Director Gonzalez to come here to talk about the sledding hill and the work that's being done in top of Kane Park and Stramp and so forth. Go ahead.
Yeah, just give a quick update here about the Kane Park ADA ramp and hillside seating. Underground work should be completed this week, and the grading for the trail is wrapping up. Fabrizi is coordinating with the paving subcontractor to get the paving completed in the next couple of weeks. The retaining wall stones are going to be delivered this week, and the wall is going to start midweek. Overall, we're looking at a completion date of mid-September for everything. Just a couple other things as well, too. In addition to that, speaking of Kane Park, the ADA bathroom project is going to begin very soon. And that's under the direction of the capital projects managers in the Public Works Department. And then lastly, just transition over to Dennison Park. I won't take up a lot of time, but just update everybody. They're completing the Dennison Turf project today, and we will have our first high school practice on the new field at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. We will also be hosting a free soccer clinic tomorrow at 6 p.m. on the turf, and we're going to have a field dedication to follow at 7 p.m. So hopefully the community could come out and support that. We're still waiting for the curing period of 45 days for the asphalt to expire so they can begin painting the new pickleball courts. We'll also start to see the fencing being reinstalled in the next few weeks. And then lastly, good news, the contractors for the Dennison splash pad, they broke ground today. They'll be using this week to grade the land, work on their underground piping, and put forms in place for the pad. And then I was told that they hope to have concrete poured at the end of next week. We continue as a city to do our part by working on running electrical, sanitary lines, and water lines to where they need to be. And that concludes my report.
Well, thank you. Any questions? Go ahead, Councilman Petrus.
Thank you, Mr. President. Director Gonzalez, I stopped by the turf field before we approved the funding. It was really great to see a tour, see the deficiencies of it, and I've been stopping by through the installation. It looks so good, looking really forward to it becoming available to everyone. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments? I just have a question on the sledding hill. How much of that sledding hill is going to be preserved and how much of it will be seating?
So you can see, if you drive past there now, there's green soil barriers.
Right.
Everything inside of the green is going to be reserved for the sledding hill.
Okay.
So if you take a look at it, that's all going to be preserved for sledding hill.
Okay, very good.
Does it make sense?
All right. Yeah, we really appreciate it.
You got it. Have a great night.
Thank you. All right. Report from the clerk of council.
Nothing to report.
Not a thing, huh? All right, well, that's good. All right, before we do public comment, just want to say a couple things. First of all, I can't help but notice our entire police force is here. Well, I don't know about entire, but I'm sure there's some people out there patrolling. But Chief, thank you for being here. Jonathan Kennerly? Wait, is he here? That's your brother. Okay, sorry, but is he here or is he outside? No. All right, well, I wanted to say hello to him. Oh, yeah, please do. If you do, please go up to the mic. Because otherwise, nobody hears you at home.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. I just thought with everything going on, I thought this would be a good opportunity. Standing here on the side, and this message is for all us here and the entire community as a whole. But standing here are some proud men and women, female, male, different races and religion that come to work every single day and serve the community with honor and dignity. I just wanted to, like I said, I thought it would be a good opportunity so you can see a part of our police force that hears every day. And I appreciate each and every one of you and everybody out there that's serving the community.
Thank you, Chief. And we appreciate you. All right, I'm just going to preempt one thing here. There is going to be an August 11th joint meeting between Shaker and Cleveland Heights city councils with the Northeastern Ohio Sewer District. it will be a public meeting. And there will be questions. The sewer district will be taking questions. And on the 20th of August, the sewer district is going to be doing another public meeting, again, about Lower Lake and Shaker Lakes in general. And that will be in, they haven't told us the time yet, but they said it will be in Cleveland Heights on August 20th at one of our libraries. And there will be an afternoon session and an evening session. And then I'm going to get a groan here, maybe a groan or two, but we do have a lot of speakers. So we're only going to, we're going to have to hold you to 2 minutes. So the first speakers will be, public comment will be for legislative agendas, items, and then we'll do general. And when you come up, make sure you say your name and the street you live on.
I actually don't have any for legislative agenda items, so moving straight to general.
Let's go to general.
Corby Roberts.
Hi, council and citizens of Cleveland, Cleveland Heights, and Shaker Heights. And I'm here today to talk about the Shaker Lakes, our beautiful gems, our rare parkland that is deed protected and is meant to be for all people, regardless of where you reside. It's one of our very rare green spaces, and now the sewer district has come to occupy it. First, they started with the Horseshoe Lake, and as we know, if you do your homework, you know that their intent is not to turn it into a natural space at all, but rather they're turning it into a sewer space. They've got a sewer maintenance road planned for running through the middle of it. They plan to tear down to destroy hundreds of trees. They're not going to retain the Shaker artifacts that are there. Also, the potential Native American sites. They have not done the appropriate archaeological studies to make sure they're not bulldozing those up. They are also bringing in a lot of artificial man-made materials to that area, not to mention they're getting rid of Ohio Migratory Bird Lake and also wildlife space. These Shaker Lakes were the gem of this area. They're very rare, small, earthen impoundments made of earth and stone. They are repairable. There is funding for it at the local, state, and federal level. All 3 cities are certified local government, which means there's all kinds of historical funding available for them and watershed fundings for the remediation of these lakes, which are so rare and important for the area. Now they're saying that they're not going to keep even the lower lake. We've got the bridge and stonework there, which is over 100 years old. And at the foot of the lower lake, we have the 1837 Shaker sawmill remains there that they've not promised to retain for us. One of the issues, they keep bringing up money, and there is funding for that remediation. They keep talking about the dams being class 1, high hazard. This is the same designation as the Hoover Dam out west.
Kirby, I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just to end with, please, city councils, for the continuing value of our cities and for our future generations, keep these rare, important lakes and park amenities for the people. They are not, this is not the sewer. The sewer district cannot define our lakes as sewers. They are not. They are, as parks, perfectly allowed to be there per their land deeds, which, thank you.
Penny Allen.
Hello there. Penny Allen, thank you for letting me address you, current president of the Friends of Horseshoe Lake, but we care about both. I want to address the concerns brought up by the shocking announcement that the sewer district wants to destroy Lower Lake, in addition to Horseshoe. There's no need to lose either lake. In fact, neither contributes to downstream flooding. And both these historic and nature jewels should remain in the Heights crown. Know that the sewer district can't be trusted. They've lied to the cities and to the public. They tried to blame Horseshoe for flooding of University Circle that occurred when Horseshoe Lake was already drained. What caused that flood in 2020 was actually 950 cubic yards of debris that the district's own contractor removed from a pipe under Euclid about a year later, improving capacity enough to withstand a 10-year storm. And to Cleveland.com, the district admitted that there would be next to no flooding with or without Lower Shaker Lake, even in a 25-year storm. Furthermore, they're scaring you with inflated cost estimates of dam rebuilding and lake maintenance. They put the cost for Lower Lake in 21 at $13.6 million, and now talking about $43.4 million, 220% or so increase. Inflation's not that bad, folks. And that doesn't include dredging and sediment removal. In 21, the district pegged that cost for both lakes at $12.8 million, and our engineer pegged it at $4 to $6 million, a big discount, by using local contractors that do bioremediation and turn that into usable topsoil. So I'd suggest that TRC give you some realistic cost estimates. With no need to destroy the lakes for flood control, the cost will be on Cleveland Heights and Shaker Heights, and I know that scares you, but don't let it. There are funding avenues to be pursued with real potential, and it doesn't have to be everything everywhere all at once. Let's work together to find the funding and save both lakes.
Thank you, Penny.
Thank you.
Josie Krampitz.
Sure. Can't stop this spontaneous applause.
Josie Krampitz.
Josie.
Oh,
Okay.
no, no.
I think. Oh, here we go. Hey.
Hello, my name's Josie Krampitz. I'm speaking here today as I am rather shocked and confounded after doing research into the shooting of the late Christian Tyson Thomas during the night of August 30th, 2024. I attended his funeral and have spoken to his loved ones. I even had the pleasure of meeting him once. I have also listened to what the mayor has said during the press conference that took place on July 21st, 2025, nearly a year later. A year of radio silence for Christian's loved ones that took place during the year-long investigation. There are so many facts that I've learned during my research into this tragedy that felt very cold and concerning in regards to the aftermath of Christian's murder. The more I research into this, the more I get concerned about the response given during this press conference. There seems to be a lot of hesitation to say a resolution that prevents something like this, a death of an 18-year-old citizen by shots from the ARs of a police squad, is even possible. The mayor mentioned that he had solutions that were to be implemented shortly, but given the fact that hundreds of thousands of dollars were given to Cleveland Heights to directly fund ways the city promised to address these issues, roughly a year before Christian's death, and it hasn't really been effectively utilized, and I worry a lot. This is all to say that I feel deeply that if there's any potential for this case or its implications to be forgotten, understated, or pushed aside after November of this year, it's a huge failing from Cleveland Heights. Preventing this from happening in the first place should have been of the utmost priority. After receiving the DOJ funding in October of 2023, now over $100,000 have been taken away due to inaction. We still have the money, and there should be no further deliberation from the city to act.
Josie, I'm sorry, your time's up, but thank you so much for this one.
Blanche Valancy.
Actually, Mr. President,
Yeah.
point of personal privilege.
Yeah, sure.
I need to leave this meeting and I just have an emergency I need to get to.
Sure.
I just wanted to express my apologies.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that. All right. Blanche, you're on.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, staff, citizens of Cleveland Heights here and watching on YouTube. Mark your calendars as the busy election season begins. The League of Women Voters of Greater Cleveland, Cleveland Heights University Heights chapter, along with partners Future Heights and the Heights Libraries, will commence our Popular Candidates and Issues Forum series. On Thursday, August 7th, 2025, from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Cleveland Heights, Cleveland Heights Community Center, 1 Monticello Boulevard, there will be a candidate forum for the candidates for the mayoral primary in Cleveland Heights. It will be held in person, there will be a live stream, and it will be recorded for future viewing. Candidates will present brief statements and answer written questions from the audience. Questions may also be emailed during the forum or in advance. All of our publicity has that information. Future forums concerning the general election will take place in September. I will be back to talk about them at one of next month's meetings. Our forums will give voters an opportunity to hear candidates discuss issues important to them in this election. And then they will, as I said, answer written questions from the public. The League of Women Voters of Greater Cleveland is a nonpartisan organization dedicated to informing the public about our election process and the individuals who are asking to represent us in government. We do not support or oppose candidates or political parties. We advocate for policies and issues that support good government. League-sponsored candidate forums and issue forums follow League procedural rules. And of course, we have Vote 411, which is a website. The answers candidates have given to Vote 411 have been published in a voter's guide, which you can find in your August Heights Observer. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Melody Joy Hart.
Hi, Melody Joy Hart. A number of years ago, the sewer district drained Horseshoe Lake and said it was temporary while they fixed the dam. It remained drained and full of weeds, and several years ago they said they don't need the dam because Lower Lake Dam would handle it and would be rebuilt. They also asked Cleveland Heights and Shaker Heights what they wanted in this Horseshoe Lake Park now, and they got that feedback and claimed they would do it. They haven't. Now suddenly they want to eliminate Lower Lake as well. Now, years ago, you may remember that there was a plan to run a highway through the lakes, eliminating them. And it seems like they spouted a story of nature and restoration on Horseshoe Lake and obtaining one of the lakes and then moving on to the next one, perhaps to allow for development in the parks or a highway. Cleveland Heights and Shaker Heights need to stand up and ensure the lake is saved. Get funding to address it, and what can't be funded through other forms, issue a long-term bond and save it. Also, the meeting, I'm glad to hear that the meeting next week is going to be a public hearing. I think people are not aware of it. I hope you put this out on the newsletter so people will hear and come. Thank you.
Tom Hudak.
And while Tom's coming up, before you hit the 2-minute thing, make sure that the communications department gets at least a note from us saying, please put this in the Friday e-newsletter. Go ahead.
Tom Hudak, Bradford Road. I have serious accusations to make against Tony Kuda.
Oh boy.
And like those accusations made against Mayor Sarin, neither of them are true. The first is what a former neighbor of Tony's told me. They have a text from Tony's wife where she used the N-word. And the second, another neighbor of Tony's said that Tony is really a cat burglar. They have security camera footage of him walking around his neighborhood at night. Now, if I hadn't said these accusations aren't true, do you think Chris Quinn, the editor-in-chief of the Cleveland Plain Dealer and Cleveland.com, would have taken them seriously? Why not? His reporting team has never questioned the credibility of Mayor Saren's accusers, nor the merit of any of these accusations. Remember the incident involving Mayor Saren, his wife, and Judge David Matea? Judge Matea drove to Mayor Saren's house and from inside his car yelled at the mayor's wife as she stood in her own yard. Mayor Saren went to the house of Judge Matea and attempted to speak to him. What was Chris Quinn's take? Here are Mr. Quinn's exact words. There's no doubt about who was the aggressor. It is so sinister for the mayor to knock on the door. Should I read that again? Maybe with a southern drawl. The reporting in the media is anything but unbiased, nor is the recall campaign unbiased. It is being run by a woman who previously ran for mayor against Mayor Saren and quit. Now she wants to have our elected mayor recalled just months before he leaves office and have Tony Kuda become our unelected mayor for 3 months. We've heard a number of accusations made about Mayor Saren, and people are accepting them as facts. Have you been the victim of an unfounded rumor?
Mr. Hudak, your time is up.
Don't accept accusations as fact. Show up this September.
And I would ask you.
Vote against rumors.
Yeah.
Vote against the recall.
Yeah, you're done.
Thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Hudak, you're to leave my wife out of anything that comes out. No. Don't come back.
Mayor Saren's wife out of it too.
I don't talk about that, but you need to not talk about that. Thank you.
Jose Quiles.
You all know why I'm here.
You do.
So I'm going to keep it brief. Behind now, by now, everyone knows my business. I was the one that made it public, and I would do it all over again. I'm normally a very private person. This situation feels unjust, and I was pushed into a corner to make my business public because it's the only tool I have. It's killing me. I could stand here and talk about the dialogue I've tried to have with this city. I could talk about what I've done to move the conversation forward in a healthy manner and how I feel like I was misled and I was lied to. I could talk about the immense amount of betrayal I feel right now. It doesn't matter though. In the past 3 months, I went from being ambitious and caring, devoted to my business, my community, my clients, and the many, many, many friends I've made along the way, to bitter, to jaded, to discouraged about the machine whose sole purpose should be to support this citizens and this community and its businesses. I did everything I was told to do. We split hairs about the property all day. I'm going to talk to you in a language that I hope you understand really well. Running a small business is the hardest and the most rewarding thing I've ever done with my life. It would mean the world to me if I could become a permanent member of this community. I'm on the verge of purchasing this property right now. My only reservation is the parking. I need a guarantee that I have the space to run and grow my business. I need a promise that I'm not gonna have to fight to exist. All I want is a promise that we can continue to do the good work that we do without having to worry about somebody having a bad day and restricting access to our lifeblood. I'm just asking for access through the city apron to park on property we already own. That's all I'm asking for. Give me a reason to commit to this community because I'm being pushed out. I desperately do not want to find another home. Give me the peace of mind to know that I can make this my home. And I promise I will commit to the community and its amazing people for as long as I have the ability to do so. That's all I'm asking.
Eileen Rammerman.
Good evening. Eileen Rammerman, Rutherford Road, and I'm here to support my friend Jose Quillas and Thunderbolt Auto Care. They have a parking problem. I am grateful to Mayor Siren for his prompt attention when it became clear on Facebook that there was a problem. I'm also very grateful to Councilman Kuda, Councilman Petrus, Councilman Larson, and to Jessica Cohen and Marty Gelfand, who responded to what is clearly a need. Jose told me that when the mayor reached out to him, he said he would be sure to work toward a solution as soon as is practical. And here's my concern. Practical for a city government that typically moves slowly due to layers of administration is not practical for a small business. Jose and those who support him need to be assured that the focus is going to remain on a long-term solution. Who will be the quarterback? What departments are involved? It's a complex situation with public utilities, with the law department, with land and who owns what. Who will be communicating with Jose? Will they communicate daily? Will they communicate weekly? They need to communicate often and clearly. Small business is the lifeblood of a city. Jose models the type of business that Cleveland Heights residents are proud to support. Please, Mayor Siren, Law Director Hannah, and council people, give Jose Quillas and Thunderbolt Auto Care the support they need and deserve. Thank you very much.
John Gall.
I don't see John,
He was here.
unless he's outside.
John Gall. All right, CJ Nash.
I'm CJ Nash, Vandemar Street, and ironically, I didn't even know they were going to be there. So I want to talk about the retaliation that is going on, and I think a lot of us know this. I had a little problem that I just thought, okay, I'll blow that out. That's petty, I'll forget about it. I came in here and pointed out the problem with the shipping containers, what we found in the focus, which of course was said that you guys knew and you guys did not know. All of a sudden, even though I've always got the focus before, I don't get the focus anymore. Okay, so I thought, well, that's interesting. And I tried to contact people. Why don't I get the focus? All right, that's minor. I'm now a weaver since I retired. And I was at the market in Chardon selling my stuff. I heard about Thunderbolt in Chardon. And I was absolutely shocked. And I couldn't believe it. I was so upset. I was like, what the heck? How could this happen? This is ridiculous. How many times have we had it thrown on us? Oh, you guys are just making it hard for business to run here. We want business to be here. Well, now, wait a second. Well, that cannot be thrown on us anymore when we have a mayor that's messing with the businesses who are here right now. And I've talked ever since, and it's like, wait a second, I need to find this stuff out. So I've been talking to a lot of people. There's a lot of retaliation going on. People who put the recall signs in their yard, people who put a picture of the recall signs on their Facebook page, all of a sudden they're having problems. This needs to stop. Okay, and there's a lot of people who are like, why are we doing a recall when there's an election in November? Because if he's not recalled in September, he's got till end of December to continue sabotaging this city.
Michael Madorsky.
I'm Michael Madorsky. I live on Redwood Road. First of all, I want to thank all of you on council for your service during these difficult times. And maybe it's a little more difficult than normal, but I want to talk about a couple of things that are somewhat related. The first thing is we pride ourselves in this city on having a walkability. And I know if you look at Cleveland Magazine, when they have their suburban ratings, Cleveland Heights is always high in walkability. But as I walk around, I notice that the tree canopy is being diminished over time by trees being old, people not maintaining them, people not watering them. The tree directly across from my house was pruned by a garbage truck that tore off half of the tree because it hadn't been properly pruned. I know we pay a portion of our property tax for forestry. I don't know what they're doing with it. I have spoken to the city forester and he was extremely responsive to my request, but maybe he doesn't have the manpower and the finances to do his job properly. The second thing I wanted to talk about was Horseshoe Lake. We've all been lied to. I don't like to say people lie because I know everyone has the best interests of citizens at heart, but we were misled about Horseshoe Lake and Lower Lake, and I think with imagination and skill and good engineering, we could preserve both lakes. The idea that the sewer district, what they need is to retain the water of that creek during flood times. And if they use the two lakes in tandem, they will be doubling their capacity for retaining that water. In other words, Horseshoe Lake gets filled up and then Horseshoe Lake gets filled up. So we can combine the synergistic effect of those two lakes. And I hope that we can find a solution that will preserve the lakes for posterity. Because once they're gone, they're probably never going to come back. And I know it's going to be a very difficult financing thing. It's expensive. The numbers we have from the sewer district are all over the map, but I think with creativity, we can keep both of our lakes for eternity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lou Radovojevich.
Greetings, Council. My name is Lou Radovojevich. I live on Middlehurst Road. I am requesting that Council gets a state auditor to do a forensic audit of our city now, while the mayor is still in office. First, I'd like to see a summary report of the independent accounting firm that you hired with Chuni and Panici. What did we learn? Any best practices that we should adhere to? Has the mayor implemented or ignored any suggestions? What did it cost us? It's also my understanding that they were not hired to do search for any impropriety or no forensic auditing was done. How come? It's my understanding that our 2023 financials have still not been audited. Our 2024 financials have not been audited. And here we are in the 8th month of 2025. Clearly last December, you saw enough holes in the budget and enough red flags for you to go out and get an independent accounting firm. My red flag was a recent podcast the mayor had with Ken Dowell. It was here that the mayor shared with us the improper purchase of a Ford Explorer the former Parks and Recs director did. It should have gone before council, but it didn't. Though the mayor righted the wrong by returning the vehicle, I couldn't help but think how many other examples have fallen through the cracks. What it really tells us, this is the price you pay for not being fully staffed and not having stable leadership in each department. We have 5 candidates running for mayor. 3 of them are here tonight. Are you willing to start your roles as mayor with our financial documents in their current conditions? Is it fair for our future mayor? Should they not have a clean slate with 0 issues from the state of Ohio? Quite frankly, is it fair for the residents and for the Mayor Sarin? We need to know the next administration is starting with a clean books, and Mayor Sarin should be able to address any issues, if they exist, as our mayor and not as a private citizen. In closing, I am requesting that council gets the state auditor to do a forensic audit for our city now while the mayor is still in office. It's fair for everyone. Thank you.
Hey, Addie, before you call the next person, could you send Lou the recommendations that our auditor sent us? He sent us kind of a 1 or 2 page.
Yeah, I'll have to dig it up, but yes.
Yeah, because you have his email, right? Okay.
James Bates.
James Bates, Grosvenor Road. I did have prepared remarks tonight, but after hearing so many people passionately talk tonight, I think I'm just going to set this aside and kind of speak from the heart tonight. I'm the son of a small business owner. My father actually had a business, Jose, very much like yours in the city of Cleveland for many years. And so I know what it's like to, have to deal with roadblocks and, things not working the way that you want them to work for a small business. I wanted to share with you an experience I had this Sunday at that cute little market on the corner of Taylor and Cedarbrook. There's entrepreneurs there. There are people there that are making their livelihoods there. And I think this council, the city, and all the residents need to come out and support small businesses. Small business is the lifeblood, not only of Cleveland Heights, not only of this region, but of the country. There are millions and millions of small businesses throughout the United States. And right here in Cleveland Heights, we have a plethora of small businesses that we need to get out and support. So I'm in full, support of this market that exists there on Cedarbrook and Taylor. I'd suggest everybody go out and patronize, the folks there. I got to meet one of the organizers this weekend, a lovely woman, and I know I'm going to be back there, and I suggest all of you go there and see it as well. And also make sure that you do continue to support Jose, because Jose, I will tell you, I understand what you're going through, and this city can definitely do better. When I saw your story, it touched me because it reminded me of my dad's business. And I thought to myself, it's a travesty that something can't be done about this. So I implore each and every one of you to please, please help out our small businesses. Thank you. Oh, wait a minute, I still got 7 seconds. Vote yes on issue 2. All right, let's get it done, everybody. That's it.
Aaron Flanagan.
Good evening, council members. Aaron Flanagan, Essex Road. And I'm here on behalf of the Lower Lake of Shaker Lakes. I'm a lawyer, I'm a banker. I have a degree in environmental management from the Yale School of Forestry. There is nothing that the Northeast Ohio Sewer District needs to do with our lakes. Okay, I'm not an engineer, but I have friends who are engineers, and they don't need our lakes, they don't need our water. So I'm asking you and my fellow citizens and their children to take a walk around the Lower Lake in your next hour that you have off. Bring your, not now, in the next hour that you have off.
No, I just did it.
Oh, cool. It's beautiful, it's a boon, it's one of a kind on the east side that I know of. And if we could get Horseshoe in there, that would be great. I'm going to all the Shaker things. I'm going to bring all of my skills and talents to saving this water body and saving these 2 water bodies. I have other things to do politically, but those are big. I'm going to take this home and I'm going to make this happen. Don't let people tell you that the money is too big. Don't let people tell you that the engineering doesn't work. Don't let people tell you that we don't need more green space in our lives. If they do, then they're against the public trust that we have in each other to provide a living, breathing city. I spent 20 years living in New York City, and if it's not for Central Park and the water that's in Central Park, that place is a dead zone. That city is a dead zone. The Central Park is called the lungs of New York City. I think most of us have heard that. There's no reason why our lakes can't be the lifeblood and the lungs of Shaker and Cleveland Heights. Thank you.
Jennifer Wintner.
Jennifer Wintner, Scarborough Road. As you prepare for the meetings with the sewer district and Shaker officials next week, I'd like to remind you what a valuable asset this community has in the lower Shaker Lake and how important it is to preserve the lake. The beauty and calm of the lake greatly enhance the quality of life, and proximity to the park adds to property values and thus to tax revenue to bring in the economics. I'm at the lake on a daily basis, and the parking areas are almost always full. People are coming from around the community to enjoy the setting. Each time I see a survey about Cleveland Heights parks, whether from the city or Future Heights, I wonder why the Lower Lake, Horseshoe Lake, Forest Hills, and the gorge along North Park are omitted, since their presence is essential to creating the beauty and identity of Cleveland Heights. The sewer district has proven that what they give to the people can't be trusted. We need accurate information about the plans and the associated costs. I encourage you to demand access to the sewer district studies and cost estimates as they are produced, and to insist on second opinions. In the event that the sewer district can't be forced to maintain the Lower Lake at its own cost, and Cleveland Heights and Shaker are forced to pay some of the cost, we need to do it. For a community that's willing to spend $1.5 million on a Stramp and $3.5 million on a playground, agreeing to spend a comparable sum to retain the Lower Lake should be a no-brainer.
Marty Gelfand.
Hi, good evening, Marty Gelfand, Meadowbrook Boulevard. I've been thinking about my parents a lot lately, Ernie and Ellie Gelfand, who bought their house on South Compton adjacent to Kane Park in 1953 and lived there for the rest of their lives, till 1999 and 2013 respectively. And so I decided I would take a stroll down memory lane, which in this instance was North Woodland over by Shaker Lakes. And I read the historic marker again, which I've read many times. And I was recalling how in 1895, it was decided to create a park system that would connect Shaker Lakes with Gordon Park on Lake Erie. And so, in other words, Shaker Lakes preceded this park system that was created in 1895. And then there was a big a proposal to build a Clark Freeway, which would have completely decimated the Shaker Lakes. And they talked about the different groups who got together, the Park Conservation Committee consisting of 35 different garden clubs, and the Cleveland Heights, University Heights PTA, and other organizations, and the people like my parents, Ernie and Ellie Gelfand, who fought against destroying Shaker Lakes. Well, we have to do that again. There's a saying that if you're a carpenter, everything looks like a nail. If you're a sewer district, everything looks like a sewer. Shaker Lakes does not look like a sewer to me. It's my beloved lake that I grew up with and that I hope to love for the rest of my life. And I also want to mention something else. If you're a sovereign government, your main job is to protect the people who live in your jurisdiction. Jose Quillen is one of those people. He's being threatened by whether it's the city itself or the water department. Don't punch up. Don't punch down. Punch up if you have to punch anyone at all. Take care of Jose. He's a small businessman that needs the support of the sovereign of his jurisdiction. That's all I have to say.
That's all we have.
Wow. Well, thank you all, even the Yankees fans back there. We really appreciate you all coming and making comments. And, I had to call you guys out, right? I had to do So we're going to go through legislation now. First readings for adoption tonight.
I have ordinance number 146-2025 on first reading, an ordinance to repeal and replace certain subparagraphs of ordinance number 011-2025 relating to appropriations and other expenditures of the city of Cleveland Heights, Ohio for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2025, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Sarin.
So moved. Mr. President.
Wait until it's moved and seconded.
Second.
All right, go ahead. Any discussion?
Mr. President, I'd like to move to amend Ordinance 145-2025 by substituting the version labeled as amended 8/4/25 for the version previously published in the council packet.
Second that.
Yeah, you can do that. All right, any discussion on the amendment? Can you just explain what that, yes, go ahead. Thank you, Councilwoman Larson.
No, I would like Jim or Councilor Patras to explain why he did that amendment.
Yeah.
Please.
Seems like appropriate. Keep in mind, we pre-discussed all this at Committee of the Whole, but go ahead. It was about the funding source.
If I remember correctly, this is the piece of legislation where rather than taking from the general fund, we were going to merely increase the budgets from the funds that were already in the funds.
That's my recollection. Any discussion on this? All right, all in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The amendment passes. Now we vote on the legislation, which has been moved and seconded. So are there any comments or discussion on that? All right, all in favor of the legislation 146, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Go on, Eddie.
Next, I have resolution number 147-2025 on first reading, a resolution appointing Peggy Spaeth as a member of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board of the City of Cleveland Heights, Ohio, to fill a vacancy for the remainder of an unexpired term, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure introduced by Councilmember Cobb.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion?
Yes, just excited to have Ms. Spaeth back. Yeah, on the
Peggy.
committee. Looking forward to that and her impact in the city. So just excited. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 148-2025 on first reading, a resolution declaring the necessity of implementing a public services plan for the Cedar Fairmount Special Improvement District of Cleveland Heights, Ohio, Inc., and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure introduced by Mayor Sarin.
So moved.
Second.
All right, can I ask the law director really quick? Do we have an amendment for this?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. President.
Go ahead.
I'd like to move to amend Resolution 148-2025 by substituting the version labeled as amended 8/4/25 for the version previously published in the council packet.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All right,
Mr.
that makes sense. Yes. Oh,
Mr. President, just to explain for folks, the version of the exhibit included in the packet was mistakenly for the Coventry Village and not for the Cedar Fairmount Special Improvement District. And so this amendment corrects that.
In addition, it lists all the parcels as opposed to a previous version that did not list all of the parcels.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes.
Now you need to pass the actual legislation.
Well, I think that was the amended version.
That was the amendment,
Oh, that was just the amendment. Okay.
but it has been motioned and seconded.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Next, I have resolution number 149-2025 on first reading, a resolution appointing Lorna Rudolph, Joe Mendez, and Kathy Flora to the Cedar Fairmount Special Improvement District, Inc.'s Assessment Equalization Board, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure introduced by President Kuda.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? I just want to thank the three people for being willing to do this. All in favor?
President Kuda, excuse
Oh,
me.
yes.
Will you also explain why we're doing this now before the need is there, that you want to have the equalization board ready?
Sure. So an equalization board looks at complaints in a special improvement district that there might come about some disputes, and they actually hear the complaint and have quasi judicial power to rule on that. And there was at least one complaint. Is that?
There's the complaints would come in after the notices of assessment go out, which is something that's commanded by the legislation that you just approved.
Got it.
So if they do come in, though, the timing becomes really dicey. And so by pre-appointing the Assessment Equalization Board, if somebody has a complaint about the proposed assessment, then the board is already stood up and ready to go so that the process can move timely.
Thank you, Director Hanna. Any other comments? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes.
Next, I have ordinance number 150-2025 on first reading, an ordinance to approve current replacement pages to the Cleveland Heights Codified Ordinances and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure introduced by President Kuda.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes.
Next, I have ordinance number 151-2025 on first reading, an ordinance to accept the tentative agreement in matter of the City of Cleveland Heights and Laborers International Union of North America, Local 860, serb case number 2025-MED-01-0024, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure introduced by Mayor Sarin.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Councilwoman Larson, sorry.
I would like to suggest that what the mayor said is really important for this legislation because it will bring our salaries, our hourly wages up so that we can better compete with other cities for recruiting new employees. So I'm all in favor of this legislation.
Thank you. Councilman Maddox?
I was just going to say, I'm absolutely 100% in support of this legislation. I think it's time for us to make sure that these roles are competitive. But as an aside, as a personal aside, I just want to shout out 860. Many of you don't know it, but I got my first job with this city working with some of you. And I was a young dad at 19, and you guys helped me navigate that. And to see that same passion and energy come through, I thank God for you guys and the work that you do. And it goes unseen in so many places. They have no idea the weather that you work through and the stuff that you deal with. And it is about time to make sure that you guys are getting what you're due. So for all of the things that you guys do behind the scenes, I just wanted to celebrate you and just say thank you so much for that. But it's an honor for us to absolutely get this done and make sure that we're taking care of you guys. But if it wasn't for you guys, I have no idea what I would have been as a clueless young 19-year-old trying to navigate fatherhood. But because you guys embraced me, it allowed me to do what I needed to do. So thank you guys, and just appreciate you.
Yes, Councilman Posh.
I just wanted to make a mention that I'm very happy to support this. We spent a fair amount of time in executive session reviewing this. We appreciate staff going through the negotiation process. And when all is said and done, we're going to have competitive wages with most of the cities that are around us. And it's going to cost us not $1 million this coming year, but close to it. And I think it's money well spent.
Thank you. Councilman Cobb?
I look on our webpage every week to see what jobs are posted. And continuously, we have service department jobs that are posted that go unfilled because of the low wages that we pay. Hopefully, this is a step in the direction of correcting that and getting our service department up to the full complement so you guys were able to deliver the quality services that our residents expect. I have said it repeatedly that this is a city council that takes care of its employees, notwithstanding attempts by the mayor to sometimes pit the employees against the city council. We've taken care of this year our police officers, our fire department, and now we're taking care of you guys. You've earned it. So I'm going to be voting to pass this. Can I say?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Hold on one second.
And this is sort of off topic, but the other group of employees that still needs to get addressed are the employees that aren't in a union. This council passed a budget in March that provided for a minimum of a cost of living increase to our City Hall employees and those that work in the community center that aren't a part of a union. As recently as today, I was contacted by an employee that said they haven't received a cost of living. Also, on May 5th this year, we passed the Archer study with its salary recommendations. It is my understanding that most of those recommendations, which required some increases for some employees, those haven't gone into effect. Instead, the mayor has picked and chosen who among the employees he is going to reward. That's got to stop. That's not the right way to do things. That's all I have.
Okay. Councilman Petrus.
Thank you, Mr. President. Whenever you look at any number of the job classifications and look at some of our peer cities, position after position, we are ranked near the very bottom. And so this is merely righting a wrong that shouldn't have existed in the first place. Some people might say like, oh, it's costing us $1 million extra a year. It's an investment. It's an investment of $1 million extra a year into the staff, and I do hope that this will help with our recruitment. So I look forward to supporting it. Thank you.
Vice President Russell.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to, I should have said this earlier. I know that council previously discussed some additional needs that were brought to our attention through 860, and I found out what that was, and so we'll make sure I get that information over to council so we can get that taken care of as well in terms of some equipment, if you recall. So.
I just need to say that because I am the Ohio State Vice President for you all, I have to recuse myself from voting on this. But you all know where my heart is. And I want to thank Councilman Cobb for bringing up about the Archer study. If you all recall, some time back, I asked for an ordinance for a living wage here in Cleveland Heights. And I talked about it and I wanted to put it in action. But instead of me being able to put the legislation forward, that's when the mayor decided to do the Archer report. So now the Archer report is out and is still not being implemented. So we got to make sure that is implemented so that all employees are made whole and everyone here in Cleveland Heights needs to make a living wage. And I am definitely for that wherever we go. Thank you.
This is one of those cases where the lawyers for the administration and the union reps got together and worked together. I mean, I didn't sense any friction, but of course I wasn't part of the negotiations. But this is one of those cases where we got a lot of information, council did. And, you know, when I heard about the price tag, you know, I'm going to be honest, I was like, whoa. But I'll tell you, when you look at the numbers, and they were very good about giving us the facts, it became a no-brainer. And that's a comfortable place to be on council. You know, I'm not saying it's all about us, but it's nice to be able to vote on something and know you're doing the right thing because they did a wonderful job at getting the facts in front of us. And I'm really happy for all of you. So with that, let's vote. It was moved and seconded probably 20 minutes ago. Yeah. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Congratulations.
Thank every single one of you guys. Believe me. Thank you. You worked very hard.
You earned it.
Next, I have resolution number 154-2025 on first reading. A resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Panzica Construction to provide for the HVAC, electrical, and other related work necessary for the public improvement of replacing and upgraded the Division of Police's existing officer lockers, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Sarin.
So moved, and I was hoping they'd go home and get some rest.
Don't be late.
We have a second?
Second.
All right, it's been,
Thank you.
It's been motioned and seconded.
Who was that second?
It was Bob.
Okay, thank you.
And so do we have any discussion here? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Good night, everybody.
Next, I have resolution number 155-2025 on first reading, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement or amendment thereto with All City Management Services, Inc. for crossing guard services through December 31st, 2025, providing compensation therefore and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Sarin.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? For the crossing guards, yes, go ahead, Councilwoman.
Are we on 154?
We're crossing guards 155.
Okay. All right, I withdraw that hand raise.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 156-2025 on first reading, a resolution authorizing a second change order to the agreement with Fabrizi Trucking and Paving Co., Inc. as general contractor for the CH9, CH32, CH57, and CH58 SSO control projects, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Sarin.
So moved.
Moved. Oh.
All right. All right. It's been moved and seconded, kind of. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes.
Next,
First
on
reading.
first reading only. Ordinance number 152-2025 on first reading, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute a subordination agreement with People's Bancorp, Inc. to subordinate the city's mortgage on the real real property located at 12426 to 12438 Cedar Road, permanent parcel number 685-26-004, and owned by Cedar Grandview Company, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Sarin. I have ordinance number 153-2025 on first reading, an ordinance amending the use regulations and rates for admission and other services for the Cleveland Heights Community Center, City Parks, and Cumberland Pool for calendar years 2025 and 2026, and repealing ordinance number 125-2020, introduced by Mayor Sarin.
All right, I'm referring that to Parks and Rec, right, Addie?
Correct.
Okay, very good, thanks.
And now second readings. I have ordinance number 127-2025 on second reading. An ordinance creating a new chapter 1373 exterior walls and appurtenances parking garages of Title III local provisions of Part 13 Building Code of the Codified Ordinances of Cleveland Heights to include standards and provisions to regulate the structural integrity of building facades and garages within the city, introduced by Mayor Sarin. And I believe we're not voting on this tonight.
We are not. All right, then we're going to move on to committee reports. Who has the committee report? Councilwoman Larson.
Very short, President Kuda.
Thank you.
Finance Committee will meet August 19th at 6 p.m. And the Municipal Services and Environmental Sustainability Committee will meet August 13th at 10 a.m. That's it.
Councilman Cobb, thank you.
Yes, thank you. We have several vacancies on some of our boards and commissions. For our Board of Zoning Appeals, we have an opening for an alternate. For our Citizens Advisory Committee, we have 5 openings. For our Commission on Aging, we have at least 1 opening, possibly 2. The requirement is you must be at least 62 years old. For our Landmark Commission, we have 1 vacancy. For our Environmental Sustainability Committee, we have 1 vacancy. And we still are seeking applicants for our Parks and Recreation Youth Advisory Board, open to students 15 years old and young adults up to 23. You can find information and applications on the city's website. Also, our Clerk of Courts back on July 24th sent an email to the Communications Director, the new Communications Director, with a copy to Mayor Sarin, asking that these vacancies be posted on the city newsletter. And to date, unless I've overlooked it, they have not been posted. So this is the only way that I have to communicate that we have the openings. I don't know whether that's an oversight or some retaliation against City Council, but Addie, if you would resend that, forward that email again to the new Communications Director, I would appreciate it, and maybe we'll get a little cooperation getting these things posted.
Thank you. Any other committee reports? Councilman Posh.
We have a safety committee meeting set to be on the 12th next week, but one of our members can't attend, so we're going to try to reschedule that or rework the date in the next few days.
All right. Vice President Russell?
Yes, the Plan and Development Committee will be meeting on Wednesday, August 6th at 10:30 a.m. We will be talking with the Noble Merchants to update their success so far on becoming a Merchants Association, and we will also be updating the Taylor Road Merchants Association and be hearing from Pastor Hicks.
Very good. Any other committee reports? All right, let's move on to old business. Councilman Posh, and then, okay, I didn't realize. Go ahead.
Let me find all my notes here.
So
I was pretty disturbed last week about the communications that came out of the city regarding the incident last week. And I'm not going to talk about the incident because there's an active investigation about it. What I'm talking about is our communication department sending out some press releases that, in my opinion, were wrong and certainly aren't validated by a lot of public information, including police reports. And when I look at this, there was a press release issued by the Ohio Patrolmen's Benevolent Association that represents the Cleveland Heights police officers and supervisors. So we passed some legislation recently about what's proper to get communicated and if it's political or not. And I'm wondering if this is something that we can look at that legislation and see if there's any recourse we have as council to either penalize or remind people, I mean, maybe put some warnings in place that this way of communicating to our citizens with misinformation is just wrong.
Well, thank you. Just to avoid any conflict of interest, why don't we give this to Steve Byron, our new attorney, and have him look at the legislation and look at the communication that went out. And as far as the police benevolent patrolmen's, the Ohio Patrolmen's Benevolent Association response, Addie, I can give you, I think I emailed it to you. So let's put that into the record for this meeting so that response is there. Go ahead.
I've already referred that over to Mr., with the President Kuta's permission, to the attorney, Byron, to take a look at the legislation and to take a look at the press release that went out.
To see if there's a violation.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Councilman Maddox.
I know we discussed this in committee of the whole, but I want to make sure I'm doing this because he's here, just so that are we clear now on, yeah, I was gonna say, because I just don't want him to continue to come in here like this and we don't have this resolved. Is council clear on the allocation for Prentice, and are we okay with that? I know we've got to talk about some parameters, but since we talked about a committee of whole, he's here. I just wanted to discuss this. So there's only two things that we're missing now, is just some guardrails around reporting when it comes back.
Months reporting after.
And we made the decision about where.
Yes, the mayor actually.
Turn your mic on.
Oh, yes, the mayor actually told Director Harris where to take the money from in committee of the whole. So he understood that, and we talked about 6 months, a parameter as far as reporting back.
Is there anything on council or that council needs an additional in terms of questions or information so that we could at least get this done? I know that there's a time constraint. And again, I know there were some county council members that reached out just asking because of the approvals they made, and I just don't want to hold anything up. So if this is something, I just want to see if this is something we feel comfortable voting on next time we're together, and getting this through, if there's additional information we need after maybe finance or we discuss it.
I would like to confirm that the address has changed from the original legislation so that the new address and the name of the program are correct on the legislation when we do see it.
That's
Otherwise, I have no objection.
Okay.
That's been done.
Okay. All right, I'm glad you brought that up.
And just along with that, I don't know if it's appropriate now, but I didn't know if he had a deadline at all that we might have been missing in terms of any of.
Well, this is still old business.
So that's why I was just, did you?
Yeah.
Yesterday, okay.
Yeah.
So our next meeting is August 18th, so, okay. All right, thank you.
That was it.
Is there anybody else that, I'm sorry, okay. All right, so is that it for old business? All right, new business? Councilman Posh?
So regarding Lower Lake, I'm asking everybody to sort of keep their mind open when we listen to everything on the 11th and consider the possibility of getting an outside expert to help confirm some of this information. It's pretty common practice when you have a change this big that you would have another engineering firm to come in to help. It's kind of like a second opinion for a medical incident to review it. But maybe we can keep that in the back of our, just in mind when we listen to their presentation on the 11th.
So that was done for Horseshoe Lake. And I think maybe we, like you said, we hear what they have to say and then look, then let's talk, let's discuss it. And, if we think it's necessary, certainly that's something we can do. Yes.
Mr. President, I was going to make that point, and that was also done a little bit sort of further downstream, pardon the expression, And so I think this is a newer, a more newly disclosed development, and so those opportunities should be available.
All right. Any other new business? Oh, yes. Go ahead, Councilman Cobb.
Would we be considering Jose and Thunderbolt as new business?
Yes.
And I'd just like to point out to you that I believe that whatever action is needed by council to ensure the success of your business, we will do. City council does have authority over the city real property. So to the extent that an easement or a sale of land needs to be done to accommodate you, all the mayor needs to do is bring that legislation in front of city council, and we will give it consideration. I'd also like to point out that back in December of 2023, we passed legislation authorizing $1.4 million in business assistance from the ARPA funds. I don't think any of that money has gotten out yet to any of the businesses in the city. So I know that our planning department is exploring how to get that money out. So I hope that they'll reach out to you, or I'll ask them to reach out to you to see whether there's some financial assistance available to your business.
And I'm glad you, I want to stop that spontaneous applause. I'm glad you brought that up because that's part of where I was going. I did send, the mayor did reach out to all of council. I did respond. I'm sure some of the other council members responded. I had 3 ideas. I certainly want to do this in cooperation with the administration, but if there is a legislative remedy, Director Hanna, I would like to look at what that could be. And if it's something we can do. I know there's a liability issue with the property and using it, but if there's a way to work this out, I think that, I'm speaking for myself, but hopefully for others, that we want to find a remedy for this.
And I want to thank Jose for coming today. I had several conversations with him in tears, and I encouraged him to come tonight and speak his piece. He has been a great business owner in the Noble neighborhood. He has been helping us with the Merchants Association as well. I don't even understand, after going and looking at it, why the boulders are in the place that they're in. They could be somewhere else. Temporarily, they need to move those concrete boulders so he can use those spaces to park there. He's been parking there forever. So why put something there to block them now when they can move it, and then we can work on the legislation to help his business. And you're right, I allocated that $1 million for all businesses in
2023.
2023, and no one has gotten any help. So hopefully you'll be the first one in line to get some help with your business.
All right. Well, thank you, Vice President Russell. Do we have any council member comments? We kind of just say it. Go ahead.
Yep. And same time, I wanted to thank Mr. Ivory as well for coming back. And I know you've been coming back and forth, and hopefully we'll get that done for the next meeting. I want to thank Lou for expressing what I've been saying in all of my meet and greets, that we need to have a forensic audit immediately. I thank you so very much for bringing that forward. I hope all of council hears you. We need to do that ASAP. Not saying nothing is wrong, but things need to be clear and above board. So thank you for that.
All right, Councilman Cobb.
Yes, back on June 2nd, council passed a resolution affirming our commitment to ensuring that our city employees are protected from retaliation for raising concerns about workplace conditions and the conduct of the administration. If anyone is wondering why the police department turned out tonight, that is as a result of the press conference that the mayor held last week, where he impugned the character and integrity of our chief of police and our law department. This has got to stop. I don't know what further action council can do, but as this council has the back of our chief of police and all of the employees, including our law director and the other members of our law department. They deserve better than the treatment they're getting.
All right, any other council member comments? Councilman Petrus?
Thank you, Mr. President. As I've shared with some folks, I've talked for over 2 years about the need for a salary study here in the city, and I was really happy whenever the administration administered that. We got the results, we passed the legislation earlier this year, and the employees are going paycheck after paycheck without getting the increases that we passed. I think that it is a shame whenever we hear reports about some of the leadership getting increases in their salary when the frontline employees are not, even though we passed that. I have reached out repeatedly to the administration about this, and at the very least, a communication needs to go out to the staff members explaining when this will happen, because they're left in the dark. It's not fair, and I hope that that will change. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other council member comments? All right. I'm going to spare you the president comments and just say that I hope people show up at the community center for the League of Women Voters forum for the mayor. That's 5 candidates. This has certainly been an elevated issue. It's again at 6 p.m. at the community center. Hopefully we'll see you all there. This meeting is adjourned at 10:02.